When it comes to Ragdoll, one of the first things that most people may know it for is the fact that it's supposed to be Lucy Hale presenting herself as a more mature and possibly doing a role that's less young adult teenage. But even if you separate what she brings to the show in terms of star power, Ragdoll has the potential to really be a very good mystery slash crime drama focused on police officers trying to solve a case of a serial killer. Nathan Rose is the cop who took down Mark Hooper. Mark Hooper is the one who's known as the cremation killer, but unfortunately, because of some procedure that Nathan didn't follow, one of his fellow cops, whose last name is Chambers, reported that to a woman named Andrea, who's a journalist, and basically Mark got off on a mistrial. Because of that, Nathan flipped out, jumped the barrier inside the courtroom, and beat the living hell out of Mark. And with him doing so, we're assuming he got suspended, but it's not clear. The only thing we know for sure is that he got sent to a psychiatric facility, and for it took about 2 years for him to really like get back onto the force. And at that 2 year mark, he learns that Mark has been killed, and he is now part of this elaborate ragdoll, which may have been right across from where Nathan currently lives. Now, as for what the ragdoll is, it's basically about maybe about, I want to say, six or so bodies at this point, one of which is Mark's head. So, with that in mind, Nathan is now trying to find who killed Mark. And there is the possibility that Nathan might be involved, but it's kind of complicated. To make a long story short, while Nathan was in the psychiatric facility, he met a gentleman named Joel who had paranoid schizophrenia, and he mentioned something called the Faust. The Faust is supposed to be this person that you call in, you name a name, they'll kill them, but you're going to get killed right after. This is not expressed to either Emily Baxter, who is, I believe, what's the best way to look at Emily? The way that Emily talks about herself, you would think that she is Nathan's boss, but they seem to be similar age. She's just higher rank. So the way that it's presented is they may have came up together, maybe are friends, but because of what Nathan did, he may have gotten demoted, or just simply over that 2 year period, Emily got promoted, so she's over him. But he isn't alone. Alongside Nathan being under Emily, there's also Lake, played by Lucy Hale, who is, she's kind of divisive. On the one hand, she seems very capable at her job, but on the other hand, her social skills have a lack to be desired. For one, she's new to the place, yet she's already coming after Nathan and questioning whether or not he should be on the case. Problem A. B is she's very much about titles, identity. She makes it known that she's vegan, that she's lesbian. And while she's not like overly politically correct to the point of being annoying, there's kind of this part of her that makes you think she's going to be a bit much during this whole show. Though, who knows? She shows off her tattoo, so maybe first perceptions might be wrong. Fingers crossed. As for the highlights, I definitely want to say that as of right now, whether it's Nathan, Emily, or even Lake, there is something to them that makes you want to watch. Granted, mostly Nathan and Emily at this point, because Nathan seems a little bit off because he's dealing with PTSD from all he saw when he was investigating Mark. And now to be having his psyche hit with this ragdoll, which is somebody's head put with somebody's arm, somebody's leg, somebody's torso, and an image that's probably too graphic for me to put on YouTube. Yeah, it's a lot for him to deal with. But Emily, too, is also dealing with some form of PTSD. She just got off a case dealing with a young boy, and it seems like he was a boy from her neighborhood, and she's trying to figure out how to deal with that situation on top of now dealing with this ragdoll. And it really presents the idea that when it comes to police, it's not just about dealing with the heroic moments, but also dealing with the moments that build your case and all the trauma that comes from trying to take somebody down. which is why we kind of appreciate Lake just because Lake is so new to the process. And also, I don't want to say she's innocent, like in a form of oblivious or ignorant, but she's innocent in a way where I don't think she has experienced the same kind of trauma that Nathan or Emily has yet. So you can kind of see from them, it's the long term effects of what going through this and seeing this stuff does, and with her is the new side of it, if you know what I mean. Like we're gonna see through her possibly all the things that led up to either having a mind like Nathan's, which can just snap on you, and then have all this kind of flashback trauma, or Emily, where it kind of seems like you're suppressing it just so you can do your job, even though at any moment you could possibly either end up like Nathan or just what's the best way to put it? Maybe not end up like Nathan, but definitely it takes its toll on you in a way that makes it so between stress, needing to feel like you need some type of substance, be it drinking, smoking, whatever, you have to find some means to get the edge off. For the most part, a lot of the shows we watch that deal with people who are considered professionals in terms of like cops, doctors, things like that, their stories are in cases are usually contained within one episode. Whether it's 911, the good doctor, things like that, everything is done in one episode. Whether it's the miraculous cure that's discovered, a surgery that nobody thought of or else was so rarely done, but it can work so miraculously. Or in the case of 911, we have big, huge natural disasters, and all that is wrapped up in one episode to the point where it kind of dilutes what's happening. But with Ragdoll, being that this one murder, the Ragdoll killing, and possibly what the false might have done is going to unravel throughout the whole season, you get a sense that we're going to actually get what it means to be a cop. As noted when the highlight with the characters, you already see the psychological toll that can happen when it comes to being a cop through both Emily and Nathan, and then Lake, we may see that as well. And with this murder mystery, because it has not it has, but the possible killer has a list of people who was going to get killed, which first off, the mayor of London was the first one killed through a very like dramatic death. And then Nathan's the last one. It really pushes you to wonder how many of these people are going to actually kill. Because if this killer can take out the mayor of London, what does that say about them taking out Nathan or anybody else on the list? And it's the possibility of failure and them having to really be at a quick pace in order to get the information they need to possibly take this person down is what kept me going. And I'm pretty sure it's going to keep most people who watch this going as well. So, for an overall impression, like most people, I'm really not trying to pay for an additional subscription service. And while AMC Plus doesn't really have anything but this for me to watch, at the same time, it's enough for me to subscribe for, I guess, the 1 or 2 months that I need to in order to see the whole production. So I would definitely say, as of now, I'm leaning toward this might be a season that's worth seeing, but I have been wrong before.